Yo, what's up guys, another Siege video, and I haven't been doing too many Siege videos, so let me know in the comments if you want me to do more Siege videos, or you're okay with like Siege videos. You're mainly using the same kind of hits. Well, difference on this one today, which you've also seen in the title, I will be showcasing the runes of all of my offense units as well. So it's pretty early into the season, so it doesn't really mind to show these runes. Do keep in mind that I don't really switch too many runes. Most of them are presets except for some here and there. But I will also mention with every offense what kind of things do I recommend to focus on for each unit. So this video is a little bit longer than just the siege hits itself. But we're going to be looking at all of the units as well. So first off, Maximilian team with the Tiana and then something in the third slot. Third slot is mostly a CP or a Triss or anything that pushes back, or an Amber or anything that does damage. I like the pushback kind of things a little bit more. But Maximilian is focused to be on this pair, 100 crit rate, decent amount of damage. He doesn't have to be that fast because he's always paired with a Tiana. And then I do like to get max accuracy, and then for the artifacts I mostly go crit damage max on this thing. Tiana itself is just a fast Tiana, 210 in this case with high crit damage, that's all you need. And then the CP is kind of a very similar set as the Maximilian, but then not on this pair and focus a little bit more on damage. And then you just go from there. So that's the main thing that you do want to do. What does this team focus on? Enemy doesn't get any turns and you kill. Why would I use CP here over the Triss? Well, if there's no fire units, I like to use CP the most. If there is any fire units, then fire Triss might be better. But if there's fire units and water units, then I might have to look for a different option altogether. So that is pretty much why and how I use this offense. Next off is the most common one I use all the time, which is the Neftis, the Farad, and the Dark Robo. Neftis runes in this case is just a lot of additional damage. You can go for a crit rate Neftis. That is an option. You don't actually need will on this, but you can put will in it. You can put fire in it. You can also just go fully on rage on Neftis and that kind of stuff. It is definitely an option on that as well. You have all kinds of options on that. Farad is a high defense one. It's speed, crit rate, defense, and you just want to get as much defense in. Accuracy is, I think, maxed by the S3 artifact, but I'm not 100% sure if I max out the accuracy, but you want at least a decent amount of accuracy, and then you can go crit damage artifacts. Because of your crit rate, it does really work out. And then the Robo itself is just a speedy Robo. If you are found that you are very certain to outspeed, you might as well put a Vio set on the Robo. It would help out a little bit more. But in this case, just a set like this with additional damage by speed, attack, and mainly those two will already do a good amount of damage. In this case, where I'm fighting a Kinky, it is not bad to also go for a Will Rune on the Robo, because Robo might get a hit in here and he'd be armor broken. In this case, it didn't work that. In most cases, I do go for the Robo skill 1, so he gets attack buff, and then after the pushback, you have a way harder hit on this skill 3, which does a good amount of damage to clean things up. So I've mainly been using a team like this. Might you say, like, how do I replace the Neftis and the Maximilian in those? You can use the same team with the Truffle. It is pretty much a similar kind of style. You can actually use the same thing. You just have to be more careful to make sure that you outspeed and you don't hit anything with the speed lead. That's pretty much the only things. Then the next hit is my Miang with an Adriana and the Sonya. This is my Miang. It's just purely focused on dealing as much damage as possible. I don't have too much speed on it, but I have speed increasing artifacts. Do I show them over here? I do always go for the damage on the one element you want to do. So in this case, I'm hitting the Kiki with that. But I have speed increasing on that other side. Sonya is like this. It's just decent damage, and I want to get as much attack increasing effect, so I don't get Sonya trapped by a defense unit. And then the Adriana is not super fast in this, and it still has shield runes, I think, for a different kind of team. But yeah, it just in general works. I would definitely outspeed those, and then you just work from there. So in this case, I was sure to kill the Kiki, because that's just the easiest way. Then kill this thing, because it's probably easier to kill than the Tianlang. And then the Tianlang is not gonna solo. That was pretty much my thought on this. And yeah, that Miang does do an insane amount of damage with an 18 dark kind of artifact. That definitely does help out. Always with those snipe comps, you do want to switch out at least the artifact for the element that you're hitting. It's just very important to get those correct artifacts in. Next hit is a little bit of a different one. I don't use this all too much. It is a Leica plus and a Chroma plus a Raccooni. But it's mainly just how do I use a Chroma. Because I lock a Chroma in that she will be the main tank, and then the other twos are not really hit. For a lot of the hits where I use Fire Monkey, or I use a Leica, or I use a Dominic, I do tend to take the Dominic, Leica, or Fire Monkey that I have in RTA, because that's just a good bruiser build by default. So it's probably not the best runes I could throw at it. And then for the Achroma, I just go for a full tank set. It is still on the 224 speed, but it's just full tank, and then that way it will, it just tanks things, and then that's just that. So the team that I'm fighting is kind of a team you don't see all too much of, Sierra with the Lionel and then Davaraja. But in this case, I do know that none of these units have an RNG armor break. None of these units are going to do anything against, well, pretty much any of my units. So in this case, it's just super simple to have Leica clean up the things. I could have used pretty much any fire units out there. Like if I went for a Rika with a Balinus or a Rika, I would still go with one support unit, so the Raccoon is good in there. But you could have went for a support unit like a Kumar. You could have went for a whole bunch of things in here. It all doesn't matter all too much. You just want to make sure that your Chroma doesn't die. You have one unit that deals damage and one unit that is there for supports, and then it's just relatively like there's like a 0% chance to lose this match. It's just going to take a little bit of time for cleaning things up, but you have absolutely 0% chance of losing this match. That's just the cool thing about the Chroma. Chroma is probably one of the best, if need, probably, yeah, it is the best light tank out there. Because if you do this with any other unit, you would still get the debuffs. In this case, you can just fully force it towards those kind of things. So also Dumon kind of hits is mostly just food for a Chroma. So a Chroma siege offense, if you use it correctly, it is very strong. But for the people that haven't been using it, maybe this is a way to pick it up. Then the next hit is my Belial Camilla plus X. X used to always be a Windy. Currently, it's no longer windy as much anymore. But to be honest, X, I have been trying a whole bunch of things. I've been using like Clyde, which is the Dark Delsim. It's sometimes good, but in most cases, I just use something. I let that thing die, and it's even fine. This case was just like, let's just use a Kinky. So that is the Belial. I do have it on Violent right now because I don't need more damage from Rage. So you can take a little bit of additional turns and just work that way. Camilla's just super fast and tanky, like very typical Camilla kind of style. You don't want crit Camilla in these in most cases, unless you want to destroy something, then you could go for it. And a Kinky is just also like a typical kind of Kinky style. I was thinking like, do I want to actually put something else in there? Oh, I didn't. In this case, I did go for a Chow in there, which is also just, the X can be anything. And then as you can see over here, I just take the RTA Chow, I just take the RTA stuff from Chow, and then just make it work. That way I can go for a defense lead. But in the end, the third unit doesn't matter as much because you just want your Belial to die. That's the main thing. So you always hope that they focus the Belial and not something else. And then the moment that the Belial dies, it's just good. The main reason that I wanted to go for a third water unit in here rather than a Kinky is because the Bayek on the other side would only hit the Kinky and would never actually hit the Belial. So for that reason, I was like, okay, this way I can guarantee that I have the Belial, or at least a lot more chance for the Belial to die. So in this case, you just get your turns in and it's just totally fine. So that's the main thing that you want to focus with this. Make sure your Camilla's tanky enough. The unit you have on the left side, it really doesn't matter all too much. Like if you use the Belial with a Camilla into the right team, pretty much doesn't matter what you put next to it. It could be like a lot of things. Try to find something that does make most sense, of course, but it is something easy clean. Then the next hit is the one I get most questions about, which is the Ian team. Main thing that you want to focus for is that the speed tuning is Jemaya first, Homunculus second, Ian third. But Ian with a speed buff has to outspeed both of them. And as long as you keep that in mind, then you're fine. So it's a little bit testing. So my Jemaya speed crit rate attack on this kind of speed. Then the Ian, I do always switch out 2 runes because Ian, I have to put my absolute best set on to make it work where he deals enough damage, because he always has one hit where he doesn't hit with the attack buff. So that is a lot lower hit. So I have to put the best damage I can on this unit. A replacement for the Ian, currently a Water Series, especially if you're hitting defenses that are low on speeds. Water Series is a very nice replacement on this. But he has the Resistance Awakening, so I just have to put good runes to it. And then I also have a fight set on the thing with the Homunculus. Plus I always, like I mentioned before, I always check like, okay, what is the thing that is the most likely to survive? What is the thing that I most likely hit without the attack buff? In this case, the Narsha, I want to kill the Narsha first. Then I put the Elemental on that. In most cases, I do put the Byuncho element, so the wind element on it. In this case, turn order is as following. You have Jemaya just doing a skill 1. You have the Homunculus doing the skill 3 on the Nuker. Then you have a reset from the Jemaya. Then you have the Homunculus doing the reset on itself. And therefore you can give the attack buff. And you also still have the full turn on this. And then you can hit another Piercer, and then match is pretty much over. Like, it is a 3 against 1, which they should never win. Jamaira is pretty decent for cleanup. The Homunculus has additional damage by speed, artifacts on one side, and recovery on the other side. So you can clear a little bit better by that way as well. It's a very solid team, and I would recommend everyone to rune up something like this. If you don't have Eon, which most people won't, I would say Water Siri is probably the best replacement for it. But I would first test it before you right away go into the match, like how much damage do you do, because your first hit might be a little bit lower than you expect. So the next hit that I also use a lot is the Tomoe Robo with Amber. Also got often asked, how does this team work? Well, it's just a Tomoe on this pair. I do add some crit rate into it because just letting her do something, I guess. So it is this pair and then pretty fast. Then we have the Robo, which is the same copy as the previous Robo, which I've seen. And then you have the Amber that moving just after Tomoe. And I actually put this on Nemesis and I put this pretty tanky. And main reason is that Amber's mostly tanking like Byunchos and those kind of things. So it's good if the Amber is a little bit more beefy for that reason. Amber damage is purely from the passive anyways and just debuff. So you don't really give a shit about her own damage set and you just work from there. So in this case, we just try to strip everything. You want to use that skill 2 on something that you can land it, so don't use it on the wrong element. And then you just, yeah, this is just a perfect rotation where you also have the best, like spreading all of the debuffs, pushing a whole bunch of things back. In this case, we didn't push back, but there's still the karma on that thing. And everything just kills itself. That's just the simplest way to put it. Very solid team. Once again, be careful if you fight something that might be pretty fast as well, because then if the Robo doesn't push back, you might be that your other 2 units don't move, and therefore I put them on pretty decent speeds as well. Then the next hit, I don't record too many net 4 hits because often the net 4 hits are kind of like hidden offense, but in this case I could hit one, and it's just illusion, so it's not a hidden offense for sure. We have triple fight on the Jin, make it decently fast that it can take a turn if the enemy is slow. A Dova that is also swift plus fight. Adding in more fights, I can go for higher speeds without fight, but it's just funny. And then this is my illusion, it's a 271 crit damage, and then close to 2.5k on the attack. And then artifacts for this one are actually the same artifacts that I use on the Sonya, because I do think that this would be the highest damage output with the attack increasing effect, and then the attack increasing effect plus skill 3 on the other side as well. So that's just a lot of attack increasing effects. And then also it has some first skill crit damage and things that doesn't really work, but in the end, you just have to make sure you deal enough damage. It could have been swift, it could have been bad, but I'm dealing like a good 21k per hit, which is a very fair amount of damage, I would say, and that just instantly clears everything. Then a hit that I do tend to use most of the time, I do also recommend like pretty much everyone to rune this up. This is the closest to a free-to-play hit I can do. You do have the Heigang in there, but Thessarion, I do go for a crit Thessarion, which doesn't have that much accuracy. I don't think accuracy is needed that much. For the artifacts, I go crit damage increase, so therefore the crit rate does make a lot more sense. But I still go pretty beefy Thessarion. The Heigang is just, well, that one you can pause the video. It's just fast enough, and then the Riley's also, you only need the 59 resistance on the Riley to make it full. And then it's also just fast enough, and then you just bruiser fight that. You mainly use this into Claras and those kind of things. I couldn't find like a Clara team to fight at the moment that I recorded this. So I was just trying to find something that would make kind of sense to hit this. I was also doing this hit during something else, so I wasn't paying too much attention to whatever happened. But in the end, I think I got a little bit lucky on... yeah, I got a late armor break in here, but I got a crit over there, so, or I got another additional turn over there. So you can see like 30k damage, that is all you need. Like on the armor break attack buff, that is all the damage you're going to need. If the Riley was bombed and stunned by the Sierra, I would have probably had a problem, which would have been very likely for it to happen. But in this case, I was lucky for the Thessarion proc not to happen. So don't really recommend to use this team into Sierras that much. It's more into like the Clara kind of teams that you do tend to see a lot, like Clara with a Savannah plus or something. But I just wanted to showcase this team for the runes as well, because I do mostly use this team. It is just a super solid team out there. And I would recommend everyone to use it, so I did want to showcase the runes on it. But is this a best in slot against what I used it right now? No, this was really not a good hit into a Sierra, because there's just good odds for your Riley to do. And then the final hit, also not the best of teams to use it against, but I wanted to kind of use it. Pengyang Leo with Alliance, it can be used against a lot of stuff. There could be an issue where something is a Leo trap and the whole enemy team is super slow as well, but you are built on like 0 speed. So in most cases, I go for my Leo. The resistance is kind of an additional thing that's just kind of nice, but I go for a very beefy Leo that is still on Destroy. The reason I still go for Destroy where the Leo doesn't do that much damage is mainly because even if the Feng Yang dies, I could still win by destroying something. I've seen a whole bunch of fights where people didn't have destroy on the Leo and their destroy unit died and then they couldn't do anything. It does have decent overall stats. This thing also has, well, pretty much a lot of defense, a lot of HP. It's hard to kill. Also for the artifacts, I do have additional damage by defense, but I also have defense increasing effect because it is, well, pretty much always when I pair anything with the Feng Yang, it always is paired with the Alaya. So therefore you always have defense buff, so defense increasing effect helps out a lot. But then again, defense increasing effect helps a lot if something is armor broken, whereas the additional damage by defense helps a lot always. So therefore I use both. And then this is just a bruiser fight. You just kind of figure out what is the main threat that you do want to kill. I was once again doing something else during this fight, so I speed it up a little bit. You have seen this fight like 1,000 times. So main thing you want to do is make sure you're not defense broken. You kill the first thing that does damage on you. In this case, the Artemil could do pretty decent damage if he wasn't armor broken himself. So I just tried to focus the defense break on the Artemil. Byunjo could be on destroy as well. So there's just a few options. But this team is just most of the time used. It can be a little bit tricky. Make sure you're not really wasting your healing / cleansing too much. Mainly the cleanse is the one you don't want to waste. But yeah, moment you figure that part out, it's totally fine. It's just one of the strong hits. In this case, you should actually be hitting the Nana first because the Byunjo gets more dangerous the longer you hit it. Plus, it has the heal. Whereas Nana, if it's lower HP, it doesn't change anything in like how much damage output it is. So that is already my 10-10. I do use a lot of LDs in my hits. But I would say that they are somewhat replaceable by, I would say, Truffles. Still an LD unit, but yeah, I just have all of the LDs and they work very good for me in Siege. And for that reason, I'm also not recording too much Siege hits because I don't really experiment too many things around. I just go for the hits that I'm comfortable with. I go for the hits that work for me. And the more LDs I pull, the more LDs hit will come in. So if I get a new LD that is good for Siege, I would use that. My people right away say, how about Humble for Siege? No, don't use that. It's probably too low on damage for you to do anything. Might as well use a Leia or whatever. Grogan I also don't use too much. Grogan is sometimes nice if they have like a Federica next to a Perna, next to a Theomars or something like that, that you can use multiple on like the thing and then you kill it anyways, even if your Galleon misses because you're bound by the mercy of Galleon. Would I be playing lower ranks in Siege? I would definitely Galleon, Tiana, Grogan every match then, but in higher end where they expect you to get like 90 plus win rate, then betting on the Grogan or betting on the Galleon for missing is a little bit tricky. Plus, if things are super tanky, Grogan might struggle to kill all of those. But yeah, so those are the things that I do hit. But let me know in the comments once again if you would like me to do more Siege videos. Or I could also do a lot more World Guild Battle videos because in World Guild Battle, I'm free to do whatever. So I think World Guild Battle might be more interesting of a place to toy around with Siege kind of content and Siege kind of units in a completely different matter, in a completely different setup. So let me know in the comments what you would like me to do. If you have some wonky ideas for World Guild Battle, let me know as well. Maybe I'll do those in the next video. Guys, thanks a lot for watching and see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab, which has the Dungeon Guide archive and the Video Guide archive, which contains all of the guides that you need. Hope to see you there.